Howdy gamers! Since the release of the Five Nights at Freddy's chapter, we've had a bit of an influx of newer players, so I thought I'd just make this video to go through and explain some of the common mistakes that some beginners make. The first thing I'd like to talk about is 99ing exit gates. While back in the day, it'd be a bit understandable to 99 exit gates, in today's DBD this is completely unnecessary. One of the main reasons why you'd 99 exit gate is to avoid Blood Warden, but hardly any killer runs Blood Warden these days, so it's almost never worth it. Honestly, 99ing exit gates could be even more detrimental than actually just opening the door and not having enough time to escape. Most of the time you might find yourself in a situation where your teammate needs to take a body block for you and you just need to run out the exit gate. But you can't do that if you need to stop and open a gate, someone's 99'd, because that just gives the killer a free chance to hit you before you even make it out the exit gate. And then it's just catastrophic failure from there, so don't 99 gates unless you're needing to reset first, but then open the gate afterwards. Now, the next mistake I see a lot of beginner survivors make is unhooking too early. Now, this might not seem as bad on paper, but unhooking a teammate too early could result in them getting tunneled out by the killer and then losing your team time to do generators. Bear in mind that doing a gen solo takes around 90 seconds and a hook stage takes around 70 seconds. So you can get a lot of gen progress done before you even need to bother going for the unhook. Because at the end of the day, DBD is a game of efficiency. Whichever side is playing more efficiently will be the winner. This is another mistake I see survivors make, but it actually happens in my games now, so I'm not even sure if it's a beginner mistake, but moving while you're trying to get healed on the ground will actually cancel the heal, and it's led to so many lost opportunities to get healed off the ground. And this can be especially devastating if your teammate's trying to heal tech you, which is to force the killer to either hit you or your teammate, which gives you enough time to possibly crawl out the exit gate. So if you want to be healed off the ground, just stay still, please. This next mistake I see a lot of is not really catastrophic, but it's just really annoying, but bringing the killer to the generators your teammates are working on. Because at that point you're really just helping the killer do his job of stopping everyone from doing generators. Bear in mind this can be a little bit harder to understand where your teammates are when you're just starting a chase, but I guess as a part of the learning experience is to be more spatially aware of your surroundings, including where your teammates are. While this isn't always a mistake, healing after getting hooked every single time can actually waste a lot of your time. Instead, you should make a decision whether or not the killer is in a chase with someone else and weighing up the risk of your hook stage. So if you've only been hooked once, then it should be okay to go do a gen whilst another teammate is being chased. But if you're on death hook, then it might be well worth to try and get a heal off. Obviously, if you have healing perks like Will Make It, then it does make sense to just go and heal. But hopefully you won't just default go and heal after you've been hooked every single time. It's all about making the right judgment call. Okay, this next mistake actually applies to beyond beginners. Doing nothing while a teammate is getting camped is probably the biggest waste of time you can do as a teammate. You may think you're hovering for the unhook, and then you start getting chased, and then another teammate starts hovering for an unhook, and then they get chased, and then one of you gets injured, and then nobody gets the rescue because you then both end up injured, and the person getting camped dies, and then you go down and no gens have been completed at all during this time. I'm sure a lot of you have experienced this situation before. There's also been a lot of quality of life patches that can help you determine what your teammates are doing, and you now even have the resolve bar which shows the anti-camp meter for the survivor on the hook. So now you have even more information to devise a plan. This mistake is more of a lack of judgment, but going for a teammate who has been hooked in a very catastrophic area, and by catastrophic, I normally mean the basement. Basement trapper, basement huntress, basement anything. It's almost always too greedy to go for these kinds of unhooks. And it usually takes a very well coordinated team of survivors to pull this off. And if you're up to this point, I'm assuming you're a beginner, so maybe just hold off on these crazy unhooks for now and focus on the basics. The next mistake I see is beginner survivors dropping pallets way too frequently. I'm sure you've all seen clips of those windows of opportunity survivors, how to tell, and it's them just running from pallet to pallet to pallet. While some maps now are actually pretty decent at this thanks to the pallet density update, in general you'll want to be able to milk these pallets for every single bit of value you can possible, because this just gives your teammates more and more time. It'll also help you understand how valuable some pallets are compared to others, and these ones are what we call God pallets, which are pallets that killers have to break in order to continue chase. But yes, please do not be that survivor that drops all the pallets at the start of the game and shoots your teammates in the foot when they get to the mid game and they have no pallets to drop whatsoever. This next mistake I see is actually more of an efficiency thing, but not hugging loops tight enough as a survivor. The core concept of a loop is that the survivor's hitbox is smaller than the killer's hitbox, therefore you'll be able to maintain distance around a loop quicker than a killer. And like I mentioned earlier, DBD is a game of efficiency. If your looping is really efficient and really tight, then you'll be able to outspeed a killer if their pathing is really bad. This mistake I've seen has happened quite commonly even after the spawn rules have changed for Survivor. As a general rule of thumb, survivors will be able to create more pressure if they split up rather than stay together, and that means splitting progress on generators and in general just being more spread apart. This creates distance between the killer and the survivors and makes it harder for the killer to interrupt multiple survivors at once. But like I said, it's a general rule of thumb, so you should be able to double the final gen if possible. This mistake is more of what I see during the early game when survivors are all grouped together. I wouldn't say this is a mistake for brand fresh account players, but definitely players who have under or close to 100 hours, you should definitely read the killer powers and at least play a couple killers to understand what their powers can do. Sometimes playing Survivor is just a knowledge check of what you can and can't do against certain killers. One example I see far too often in my solo queue games is when we go against a Sadako. Many players still don't understand what the little rings around their characters mean and what happens when they reach full condemned. Or they don't pay attention and they leave it till too late and then they're dead without being hooked once. It might sound a little boring, but doing a little bit of research into what killers' weaknesses are can actually benefit your survivor play so much more. And when I mean research, I mean probably just go on YouTube and look at a couple videos from a couple other content creators and pick and choose what you like. This mistake is one I see when brand new players get into Dead by Daylight, and it's knowing the difference between a medium and a fast vault. Now obviously you can do a fast vault on a pallet, no worries, but doing one on a window requires you to build enough momentum in order to do a fast vault. And I've seen a lot of newer players, especially some of my friends who just got into Dead by Daylight, not understand what a medium and a fast vault is. They both definitely have their different use cases, but knowing how to do either one at the right time will stop you from getting hit at windows. This is definitely more of an emotional mistake, but I don't think you should blame the killer for tunneling or camping. There's only really a handful of times that a killer does this out of spite, but most of the time they are just trying to win the game as efficiently as possible. And tunneling and camping is the most effective killer strategy, and it has been for the longest time ever. And the sooner that you accept that this is the case, the more quickly you'll be able to see your results improve and play better. I understand that it can be frustrating, especially as a beginner and you're trying to learn and you feel like you're not even learning if a killer just decides to hit you off the hook and kill you immediately as quickly as possible. But before typing up a 5,000 word essay, just take a quick second to reflect on what you could have done better in that situation. How you could have survived a bit longer and given your team more time to do generators, because at the end of the day, survivors play together as a team and it's not just a solo experience. It would also help if you played a couple games of Killer and understand why tunneling and camping is so effective against survivors. The next mistake I see quite commonly is survivors being way too altruistic when a teammate is getting tunneled out. It's okay to be a little altruistic and take a hit or even a down for a survivor that's getting tunneled, but diminishing returns happen and even catastrophic failure happens when multiple people are taking hits for one teammate instead of doing generators. Again, this plays on the whole efficiency thing. As much as it sucks seeing your teammate get brutally tunneled out of a game, you should do your best in order to progress the team's progress. Because I'm sure the tunneled teammate would be really happy if the actual rest of the team got out and did a 3-man escape and he just ended up sacrificing himself. That's way better of a feeling than having the teammate brutally tunneled and then no generators get done and everyone ends up dead because they were trying to protect them. This next mistake is also a reflection of how to deal with camping. Now you should understand that to do a generator it takes 90 seconds solo. And for each hook stage a survivor is on the hook for is 70 seconds. That means that you can get a whole lot of gen progress in before you even need to consider unhooking someone. And if a killer is proxying really well, you should wait until the absolute last moment before going into trade with the survivor. This either forces the killer to pick you up or slug you and go after the teammate, who still will have another hook stage instead of being dead the next time they are hooked. This strategy also benefits the entire team, as hopefully everyone will be able to do more gen progress and flip the pressure back onto the killer and punish him for camping. And it's this strategy of punishing killer playstyles that most beginner survivors don't actually grasp until they get a good understanding of the core mechanics of the game. Now, as I'm not the bearer of all knowledge in the world, and especially not all knowledge in DBD, I'd like any DBD veterans or any high hour players to go into the comment section and leave a common mistake and a solution to fixing it, as there's probably a lot more common mistakes that are out there that I haven't covered in this video. And if you've made it to this point in the video, I want to thank you very much for getting to the end, and if you'd like to see more content like this, make sure to click this video up here, but don't do it just yet, make sure you subscribe. Alright, I'll see you guys in the fog.